So dairy on the carnivore diet or on keto, should you eat it or should you not? This past weekend, I showed you or I told you about how over the holidays, by adding dairy and some artificial sweeteners in just to lighten up a little bit for Christmas and keeping with the season, I put on a ton of weight, a whole lot of weight. And granted, most of it will be water weight, but still, I put on a lot of weight in a relatively short amount of time. It probably wasn't helped that I also was dealing with two different bouts in 2 months of food poisoning, and that I overcompensated. Oops. But dairy, should you avoid it? Well, if you do a little research among the mainstream dietary groups, they say that the idea that your weight loss efforts will be hampered by consuming dairy is a myth. They'll tell you that. They'll tell you it's a myth that dairy slows down weight loss. That's not been my experience. Maybe that's been your experience, but I'm going to give you my experience here. Before I did carnivore, for a year, I did a clean Mediterranean style keto diet where I did eat judicious amounts of dairy almost every day, whether it was in the form of yogurt or in dry aged cheeses. So, Parmigiano, Pecorino Romano, whatever, the expensive Italian cheeses that you can buy at Costco and natural food stores. I keep a little bit of that in the refrigerator, and a little bit of that went a long way in terms of flavoring foods. And I lost weight fine. And then I decided to give the carnivore diet a try, and I cut out immediately all the dairy and all the plants. And I was still, for the first few weeks, I was still consuming diet sodas and things. In that first month, by just cutting out the dairy and cutting out the plants, I lost 14 pounds. And I went through the keto flu again. It was the weirdest thing. Having the keto flu back was strange, but I lost 14 pounds in that first week. It was weird. That's what the dairy did to me. And for most of the past year, I didn't touch dairy until I overdid it at the holidays because I love cheese. You have no idea how much I love cheese. Cheese is a wonderful thing, and when I can figure out a way to incorporate it when I'm at a place where I'm happy with what I have, I will do so. But I'm going to remember the rule that Dr. Chafee always talks about, which is that dairy should be treated as a condiment. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean to eat it at every meal. It doesn't mean, a serving size is 28 grams or 1 ounce, so eat a serving size at every meal. No. What is the point of a condiment? Go back to your old life, before you were carnivore, before you were keto. When you ate French fries, did you eat French fries to use them as a vehicle for ketchup most of the time? Do you love ketchup that much that you drenched your French fries in ketchup? Unless you're really weird, you probably didn't. You did it to add another flavor dimension to your French fries. That's the point of a condiment, is to add a bit of another layer of flavor. So what does that mean? Well, as a condiment, if you were to take cheese and put it on your steak for adding a flavor dimension, you put some blue cheese, or you would take some dried cheese and you put it on there to add another flavor. You'd be adding a fraction of an ounce. Of the 28 grams, you might be adding 5 grams to add more flavor. That's what I'll be doing eventually. But why does dairy wreck your ability to lose weight? Well, there's really 2 reasons for it. One, you may have noticed that dairy is pretty calorie dense. I know I'm not a big fan of calories as a metric food energy. It's really the best system we have. But it's just dense. It's saturated fat, which is good for you. I will concede that saturated fat is good for you. I am on team saturated fat. But a little bit of dairy packs an energy punch. It really does. And when a lot of people eat energy or eat cheese, it's hyper palatable. So you want to eat more cheese. It's just the way it is. So you tend to eat a lot of it. And that's part of it. But the other part of it is that dairy products in general are loaded with galactose and lactose and these other naturally occurring sugars, many of which break down in the cheese-making process, but not all of them. And so if you're eating more than a condiment's amount of it, you're going to start getting a lot of this stuff, and it's going to have metabolic effects on you. More so than, the trace carb in your coffee is going to, or in your tea. We're talking, for whatever reason, it has that effect on people. And it probably goes back to sort of if you want to call it evolutionary or biological purpose of dairy. Why do animals produce milk? What is its real purpose? Milk is to feed the young. A cow produces milk to feed its calves. And not only to feed its calves, but to give it everything it needs to grow and grow quickly, to pack on the weight quickly. That's what it's for. We humans just discovered that other mammals create this stuff and that we can drink it too. And so we made a whole countless amount of delicious products out of it. But that's what it's for. And it still, to a degree, has that problem. And this is just talking clean cheeses. I want to just put on the screen here the nutrition label for Kraft singles. I mean, look at that stuff. How much do you want to eat the stuff that's in the ingredients list there? I don't. But many of you go as a fairly regular thing to McDonald's or some other fast food place and order hamburger patties with cheese. And this is the cheese they're using, or something very similar to it. Put on the screen the Velveeta singles too. These are the next best thing. You find these at almost every store. I don't know what brand offhand McDonald's uses for their cheese. I know that there's a particular brand that they have a contract with, and that company makes theirs explicitly for McDonald's, right down to the, how the size of the slice. But they're not natural. So in addition to all the problems you're going to have from normal, relatively clean cheeses, to add into American cheese to this. And I'm guilty of this too. During Christmas, I discovered that while I don't like ground beef, and I don't really like plain hamburger patties with cheese are a whole other thing. I don't know why. They just are. And they were glorious. I loved them. And I ate way too much of that stuff. It's not using cheese as a condiment at that point. It becomes like the star of the show. And I'll tell you, it has an effect. So if you're not losing weight, if you've done carnivore for a long time and you stalled out, cut the cheese out for 30 days and see what happens. Cut all the dairy down except for butter. And maybe even get rid of the butter. Go full lion diet, or replace the butter with ghee. Ghee is where they take the milk solids out of butter, and it's clarified butter. Have one of those instead. Ghee tastes weird, by the way, to some people, just as an FYI. Not everybody agrees, but some people find it to taste odd, including me. You might find that dairy is hampering your weight loss, if that's what you're doing carnivore or keto for. Again, when I went carnivore, I was still drinking Coke Zero and that kind of junk for a little while before I wisened up and ditched that stuff. And that month, I lost a ton of weight. Really, the main caloric difference was I wasn't consuming dairy products anymore. Because towards the end of my keto journey, I was having to remind myself to eat vegetables. I'm like one of those people who once I really hit my stride on carnivore, it's just second nature. Because for whatever reason, I just was having to remind myself to eat vegetables. But as soon as I got rid of that dairy, I started losing weight. And this past Christmas, I ate and drank a lot of dairy. Lesson learned. So that's my follow-up to my weight loss story. I'm recording this well before my first weigh-in post-Christmas first weigh-in post-Christmas correction, meaning, I got on the scale once, saw how much weight I gained, and I am now instituting an austere diet. And I still haven't actually really fine-tuned my macros yet. I'm still working on that, but I will tell you as soon as I do and how much weight I lost that first week, maybe in a couple days here. Let me know what your experience with dairy is in the comments. Are you able to eat dairy and still lose the weight that you need? Are you not doing carnivore for weight loss, but you're doing it for another reason, and you found that dairy helps or hampers that? Let me know in the comments. And if you're watching this video and you're new to my channel, look at the comments. I try to get people to also add to this, because most of the people who talk about carnivore on YouTube are just normal people. That's who we are. Even the medical doctors admit that they got almost no nutrition training in med school and had to teach themselves. So we're a community. We have to have each other's back here. And so in the comments, you will see almost on any channel people giving good advice, better advice than you're going to find most of the time on those carnivore social media groups on Facebook. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help, as does sharing this on social media. That helps a lot too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time.